And welcome back, everyone, to the Pokemon Team Creation Series. From Shadows82, we have the question of what is Merrick Baliton, aka the Lunar Wolf Power Ranger from, I believe, Wild Rangers Wild Force. I haven't thought about that in a while. Pokemon Team. Now, he's kind of interesting because he does have two different stories to him. One is where he is evil and basically became. Oh, God, what was the name of the character? I found the name. Anyway, he became a dark version of this character, and then he became the Lunar Wolf Ranger and went from there. As such, right out the gate, I think one of his main Pokemon would be, weirdly enough, Lucario. Now, it's not a wolf, but it is canine, it's humanoid, it's blue, which does match at least part of his outfit. Its ability to use Aura can match some of the things like the Morphing Grid, things along those lines. Its Steel typing can help for like things like defense. That would be my take on what his starter should be. Now you might say, well, wait, what about something like Lycanroc, which is still a wolf, or Houndoom, which is by that it's a hound. There actually aren't a lot of wolf Pokemon out there. That said, I also wanted to add Kubfu. Why Kubfu? Well, Kubfu is still a train, still learning, still growing. I did not want to give him a full Urshifu. I feel like that might have been a little bit overkill. I think Kubfu is the right call here for someone who is still growing into their power and still on a road for like self-discovery and recovery. Now, that being said, I did still want a Pokemon to represent that darker side of him, so I did still go with Lycanroc Midnight form, which I have now updated that image for a more crisp image, so there you go. But there are also the Zords he has, which is a Wolf Zord, a Alligator Zord, and a Hammerhead Shark Zord, which all combine together. So there is no Hammerhead Shark Pokemon, which, by the way, still unless you're going with Garchomp, which I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not. He might have a shark-esque design to him. He is not a shark. He's a dragon. It's not the same thing. So I am going to just give him a Sharpedo on the team just for that. Then you have his Alligator Zord. This is where I could now use one of the new mon that came out in ZA, Mega for Alligator. Like a lot of people, not a huge fan of this Mega, but at least it's a transformer. It's a Mega Evolution, and it has it transforms as its Mega Evolution. So I think that does fit well. And last but not least is the Wolf Megazord, which also brings us into his ace, Zacian, which is a wolf. It is a wolf. And it also carries a sword, which he himself carries, although he's got like a weapon that morphs into like 3 different weapons. So the question as always is, how balanced is this team? And I'd say it's actually pretty balanced. Yes, it has a few glaring weaknesses, particularly against fighting, because half the team is just straight out curved by fighting. And Fairy, again, half the team does not do well against Fairy. Other than that, though, it's mostly 2 times weaknesses. 2 times weakness to Grass for your Water and Rock type. 2 times weakness to Psychic for your 2 fighting types. Excuse me. 2 times weakness to Fire with your 2 Steel types. And 2 times weakness to Ground with, again, your 2 Steel types. Conversely, however, you got a 2 times strength against Normal. A 5 times strength against Rock. Hell, if it wasn't for Lycanroc, it'd be a times 6. A times 3 strength against Dark with your Fairy and your 2 fighting types. Times 2 strength against Steel with the 2 fighting types. Times 2 strength against Fairy with your 2 Steel types. Times 2 strength against Fire with your 2 Water types and your Rock type. Times 2 strength against Ground with your 2 Water types. And a times 2 strength against Dragon with your Fairy and your Mega Evolved Dragon type. So as always, how balanced is this team? Let's start with the regions, or which regions would this team do best in? This is one of those teams that almost swept the list. There's still a few regions, though, it either wouldn't happen or would be close. Right out of the gate, it wouldn't happen in Johto because, unfortunately, you would stop at Morty. You would not have a fully evolved Sharpedo by the time you get to Morty because Johto's just so low-leveled. Carvana isn't enough to take his gym on. Even Lucario is going to be in trouble because they might have a few Steel type of moves, but it's not going to be enough. Kubfu does know Aerial Ace, but that's going to be hard. And you might have a Lycanroc at that point, maybe. And it might know Crunch. At the very minimum, it knows Bite. It's not impossible to beat Morty, but I still don't think you're in for a good time. And unfortunately, you run into the next big problem of Chuck's team. You're not well equipped for, because Chuck's team is just at the low 20 range, or sorry, low 30 range. Even if you scale all these guys up to level 30, Lucario's weak because of the steel typing. Lycanroc gets taken down. Sharpedo, I actually still don't think is fully evolved. Still Carvana. And Mega Feraligatr, you might have if you're lucky. And even then, that's not going to be an easy win. Half your team already is gone at that point. You're kind of stuck with Cubfu, who admittedly has Aerial Ace, but he's so under level or under evolved. I don't think it would help. So I don't think you could win against Chuck, at least not easily. Then you got to deal with Jasmine, which even though you got ×2 strength against Steel, it'd still be a struggle. You take care of Price, no problem. Zacian to take care of Claire. Will is somewhat problematic. Sharpedo does have the type advantage, but that's the only mon you want to have on the team that does, and he does have Execute on the team, so that's not going to work. And you are no good against Poison or Bug with this team. I truly feel, no joke, that Koga is this giant stop, this just giant roadblock, because it's going to be status moves. It's going to be type unaffected moves. Except for, again, Cubfu having Aerial Ace to handle maybe something like Ariados. You then got to still deal with Fortress, who's a bug steel type. That means only fire, which you don't have. You're going to have to deal with Muck. You're going to have to deal with Crobat. I'm missing one on that team, and I can't remember which one it was. Either way, no, I don't think you could beat him. I think that's where you stop. In Hoenn, and the other regions, the only other region that is a guaranteed no, in my opinion, is half of Unova. If it's Black and White 2, I actually think you could beat Iris, assuming you can get past Elisa and Marshall. Those are your two problems. And I'm not going to lie. Those guys are going to be tough. Because Zebstrike, if I'm not forgetting, has Flame Charge, which is going to be problematic for your Lucario. Yes, Lycanroc can take care of the Emolgas to some degree, but they have Volt Switch, which is no good, which is not good at all, and Aerial Ace, and so Sharpedo's gone right out the gate. Cubfu really is going to be able to do much, and they're going to outspeed the Lycanroc, and Rock doesn't even resist electricity, so that's, you might be done at Elise. And even then, you still got to deal with Marshall of the Elite Four, who, yeah, you have a Fairy type that's super strong, but giant chunk of your team is actually weak to fighting. So that would actually be problematic too. But Iris, surprisingly, because of Zacian, you just swap the Lucario out to go up against the Hydreigon. Quad weak to Fairy, goes down easy. Haxorus not going to be able to take that thing on. If Aggron comes out, you just switch into Lucario or Cubfu. Go Cubfu first, get as much damage as you can off, because stat-wise you want to save your bigger hitters. And then take it down with Lucario. And at that point, it's pretty easy to take her down. So yeah, you could become champion in Black and White with this if you got past Lisa. That's going to be the biggest problem. So it's a maybe, but if you get past her, I think you're going to have relative smooth sailing. And it's the same thing for Black and White, except I'm going to be straight out honest. You can't beat Alder. You can't. Lucario, you probably want to switch into, or keep Lucario there and just do the damage you can. But that Selgor is going to be doing a lot of damage back, and it outspeeds that Lucario easy. So the question is, do you run the risk of switching out to Lycanroc, or do you just keep Lucario in and then get the kill in with Lycanroc? And then, the biggest problem, you have no answer for that Excavalier. You have jack shit of an answer for that thing, because it's only weak to fire. And that thing is defensive as hell. You have no special attackers on this team whatsoever. And it hits like a truck. So you're going to lose a giant chunk of your team. And then, unless Feraligator's is hanging out in the wings here, you're screwed against that Volcarona. Even Sharpedo's no good because it's a damn bug. And it's going to get a Quiver Dance off her. Its stats are far beyond Sharpedo's. It's going to get a Quiver Dance off, and then it's going to do a Bug Buzz and take down the Sharpedo. So even Zacian is no good here because of the fire typing of Volcarona, because it's just going to make mincemeat of that thing. So yeah, no, I don't think you beat Alder. Now that being said, everything else is a kind of tentative maybe. You would make it all the way through Kanto with this team, honestly, no issues whatsoever. And then Blue is a strong maybe, but the reason it's a strong maybe is he starts a Pidgeot. You could probably keep Lucario in there without too much difficulty. But if you'd want, I'd say you could switch to Lycanroc, wouldn't hurt it. Then you got Alakazam, who's going to be possibly going to take this thing down. I don't even think a full one crunch will take down the Alakazam for Lycanroc. And it's got good stats, but Alakazam might be able to take one hit. And so the Lycanroc would go down. Bring out the Sharpedo. You would take it down with a dark type move, crunch, whatever. Then the Rhydon comes out. You could still take it down, although it could probably survive a hit, so Sharpedo might be on the low side. Then the grass type comes out, if it's Executor. Otherwise, he's gonna go through the water and the fire type. It would take down Sharpedo. Then you go maybe Cubfoot to get an Aerial Ace off on it. Maybe, or you just go Lucario, but Lucario's going to fall to the Steel type. I think it's very likely you would win. I think you would become champion of this region overall without that much difficulty. Hoenn, you run into a problem with Winona because Winona does have flying is a weird typing against this team. Flying is one that this team doesn't have a good answer for. So you just got to have the right moveset. Unfortunately, Pelipper, you don't have a good answer for Pelipper. Swellow is whatever. You're gonna resist a lot. The only thing you have on the team is Lycanroc, and that would lose to Pelipper outright. She's got Skarmory as well, which is not good. And she's got Altaria, which you need to bring out Zacian for immediately. But the problem is, if Zacian's not out when the Altaria comes out, you have to switch into it. Or you switch it, or you do Mega Feraligatr. That thing's getting a Dragon Dance off no matter what, though. And then the Earthquake spam happens. And Zacian goes down at that point. So Winona would be problematic, but not impossible. Same with Juan and Wallace. The water typing, this is just, you're neutral and have one weakness too. So good luck. That's going to be a bit of a fight. Good luck. That is going to be a bit of a fight. Honestly, mostly Elite Four is no problem. Even Drake, who's normally one of the biggest roadblocks, is not that big of a problem thanks to having Zacian. But Steven is, because in the grand scheme of things, despite being a rock and steel type trainer, he's only got, when you actually break it down, 2 Mon on the team that are actually straight out weak to fighting. And that is the Cradilly and the Aggron. His Skarmory, not weak to fighting. It's flying type. His Claydol, not weak to fighting. Psychic Ground. His Armaldo is bugged, making it neutral. And so is Metagross. Yeah, you don't have a good answer to just one-shot that Skarmory, which means Spikes and Toxics can really happen. Can use Toxic on Lucario, which is at least good. But Spikes can happen, which is not good. You already got Cubfu, who's not even as strong. Lucario doesn't even learn any solid moves to deal with it. In fact, that's the biggest problem here. No one on this team, save for Lycanroc and Sharpedo, have anything that really works. And even then, they got mostly just neutral dark moves. Dragon moves are actually resisted by... Steel's not strong against Dragon, but it resists Dragon, so that's a problem. The more I talk on it, the more I'm like, I don't think you beat Steven. Cynthia is a weird maybe. There's actually not a lot. You actually make through the gyms not that hard. Not that there's not much of a difficulty there. Aaron, the Elite Four member with the bugs, is a little difficult. I mean, yes, Cubfu has Aerial Ace, but that's about it. And his ace is a Drapion. So, yeah, it would actually still be difficult, surprisingly. And then you got to deal with Bertha, who you got 2 water types for. You'll be fine. Flint's not that problematic. But Lucian, Psychic, this team's got 1 dark type, and Amon naturally learns dark type moves. You might think that's fine, except Mr. Mind's a fairy type with Dazzling Gleam now in the modern era. That's not good. In fact, you could very well lose to this team without him really trying that hard, because he also is a pro at setting up light screen and reflect combos. And then he got to deal with Cynthia, and Cynthia is another resounding maybe. You have to switch into Zacian to do with Spiritomb. And Spiritomb, that means Spiritomb's getting a hit off. And there's no guarantee you one-shot it either. Then she's going to bring out she normally brings that Rose Raid next. You could take that down, no problem. But Gastrodon is problematic. You don't have an answer for it. You actually don't have a good answer at all. It has Storm Drain on it too. So water type moves aren't even that good. So that's going to be where the problem starts to really arise. You could bring out Mega Feraligatr to, tank the hit, do some dragon moves on it, maybe throw an ice move for neutral damage. But you're still going to be struggling. And then Milotic comes out. That has Ice Beam on it, which means that you're going to get hit for neutral damage. Yeah, and that's still not even taking consideration her own Lucario, which, again, you're in trouble with because now you're only you only do neutral damage with the Zacian. And then, assuming it doesn't know a fighting move, which it might. And then you got to deal with the Guard Shot. Now, the Guard Shot, because of Zacian, you could handle, but as assuming Zacian's still around at this point. I think it's a maybe, strong maybe. Then you go into Kalos. I'm going to tell you right now, the only trainer you're going to struggle with is Karina. The rest, including the Elite Four and Champion, are cakewalk with this team. But Karina would be somewhat problematic. Now, your only real issue with her team is Hawlucha, but that Flying Press is problematic. And unfortunately, being a fighting Steel type, Lucario doesn't actually have a good answer for Hawlucha. Hawlucha, conversely, though, doesn't have a solid answer for you either, because I think the main move, its main go-to is Flying Press, which honestly is just going to do neutral damage. Because Steel resists flying, but is strong against the fighting. And actually, it would be, I think it just does ×2. It does the standard ×2 because it's just neutral overall. I am amazed we haven't gone down the route of more dual type moves, but I'm sure they'll save it for a future generation. So apart from that, though, if you can get past Karina, if you can, and that's the thing, Lycanroc wouldn't follow Hawlucha immediately. You do have a little bit of advantage there, because if you can get a rock type move off on Hawlucha, you might one-shot it. That's why I think she's difficult, but you can get past it, because it does both flying and fighting damage. The flying's resisted by the rock, so it becomes more neutral. So with that said, Galar, surprisingly, here's the thing: if you got the Leon, it all comes down to if you can take down his Dragapult. The Aegislash is going to be problematic, though. The Aegislash, you don't have a good answer. You don't have any good answer for Ghost. Well, you have a good answer for Ghost, but the Steel type, it makes it difficult. And that is a tanky mon when it's in defense mode. And it's got enough damage power to take down certainly Lycanroc or Sharpedo. However, the issue is going to be the Dragapult. Zacian's going to have to be your answer. I would not waste Mega Feraligatr on it, personally, because it still has Thunderbolt, which would only do neutral damage, but it's going to have speed Mega Feraligatr regardless. It also has Shadow Ball, it also has Flamethrower, and it also has Dragon Breath. Either way, I think you might be in trouble. You're going to be in trouble with the Feraligatr. You're better off with the Zacian, because at least it's immune fully to the Dragon Breath. But the Flamethrower could definitely take it out. So if you can get past the Dragapult, you could win. That said, if it's Shield, you could get all the way to Leon. I think you win. If it's Sword, you actually wouldn't get past B because she's a fighting trainer, and you actually do not have a good team for those first 4 mon against a fighting type gym leader. Last but not least, I think you would struggle a little bit with Iono, but it wouldn't be end all be all. You would struggle with Kofu a little bit because you're just not good against water, and you struggle with Larry in the Elite Four because flying is a little weird. But once you got to Gita, you could clear her team no problem. Ultimately, that's my thoughts, though. This is his team. What would you do differently? If you do anything differently, let me know in the comments below. But thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.